Uh, do we already started or not? I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I mean, what can we say? I mean, I think in a way we're both here to um, say hello to the community at this
yes,
incredibly important moment in many ways, or significant moment anyway, and which happens to be around the holidays now. And first things first, wish our community a happy holiday, saying hello
yeah,
as we're on
and
the cusp of the new
happy
year.
upcoming New Year.
That's right. And what a ride and last several months it's been for us and the project.
Yeah, and I think for community too, but for us it was a lot. I mean, I learned a lot, and even I thought I was like completely prepared for all the technical troubles we could have. It was on a daily basis. I had to find something new, and hopefully, you guys had a smoother ride than we as a dev team had here. But we did our best to like make everything run smoothly and fix things on time. So hopefully you've seen this and felt that we yeah.
Yeah, it was phenomenal what happened and watching the responses to everything. But I think incredibly watching the community and watching you guys grow and learn to grow these crystals just as we did. I mean, I learned, I had many levels to learn on, all of which I think influenced my physical sculptural practice, which is, a phenomenal kind of thing to learn and discover about this project, but also to watch how, as I and ourselves learned about the potential of how this crystal, the project and the crystals would grow, watching it happen almost in real time through the community and through you guys and through the engagement. It was like having 10,000 different hands already and eyes on and minds on this thing, which is really something special.
Yeah, and our outcome is like I was surprised every single day with some new crystals, how like all these pieces combined. Even I spent a lot of time creating the system, like this the generative part, like digital part of it. Still, I was so many times surprised by outcomes you guys had, and it's funny that a lot of people actually like reverse engineered the algorithm and probabilities behind and worked on like getting these specific traits. I seen it through like transaction history, so how they discovered things and then used it and shared with the community. So it's a really interesting process of how it's like worked from you guys.
Amazing, and that you could see it deciphered through the transaction histories, and
Yeah, well,
also
I see
hearing.
like yeah, that people actually like have some crystals and do something and check the outcome and select specific outcomes. Like it's like a breeding process or something. So like an evolutionary algorithm. So and they select specific one and do another round, and then I see like, oh, you guys already understood like what, and it shows that you know what you're doing. It's really interesting to see how it was like deciphered.
Really, it was really like partly scientific and partly poetry and kind of narrative creativity. It was great. And as you
Yeah.
said, hearing people relate it and share that information, I think
Mhm.
with the rest of the community was something else, including myself. I would hear about what someone did, how they got somewhere, and I would just be shocked, and I couldn't imagine how it was possible. So I learned
And
something and try to
this
figure
like
out, how did you do that?
trust and communication which was built in the process. So I heard a lot of stories of people actually becoming friends, like online friends, basically because they joined the community and started to find people who can give them particular traits, and it was like a conversation starter for them. And after
Mm,
that, they spent like weeks talking to each other and like building this small micro communities of 3 or 4 people just trading in between. So it's a really interesting dynamic, and I'm happy it worked, because it was what you and I discussed at the very beginning, like how having this specific mechanics can engage people in this behavior, and it happened. Like not all the time, but where it happened, yeah, I really like this outcome. So like how this digital thing affects real life and creates relationships, which like it's a mirror situation, right? So they create relationships in a blockchain, and somehow it reflects on their life. So people get connected not only digital, but through the actual relationships between them. So it's really interesting outcome for me, like behavioral one.
No, totally, absolutely. That part of what's social about it was fantastic. It turned from something that might have been at a distance called a social experiment to just a social animal and a social ecosystem. And it's no longer at the remove of some kind of distant experiment. It was really happening. And I think that's a great, in a way, introduction to the idea that even as we continue to build and work towards the future and the next steps in this project, that all along the reef that we're aspiring to build physically is kind of already happening in many ways as a kind of structure in the digital community here and in our servers and amongst all
we
you
have
guys.
to manifest it to the real world now. So like
absolutely,
from fully digital thing to mixed reality thing, I think to give it some like physical properties to see and touch, and that would be amazing. Like before we go too far into the future, we probably should just have a hard cut for end of the year, and looking back to what we've done already. It's amazing. Like dev team did amazing job, marketing team did amazing job, and the community itself did amazing things too. So like all the parts of this bigger structure we've building worked nice so far. So I don't know, do you have something I mean, I can from my side, from the digital point of view, see like say about highlights I had during this year. So maybe the first thing which was most surprising for me was speed of the like initial speed of the community building. We went from like one participant on Discord to almost 3,000 under 1 week. I was like completely unprepared, to be honest. I had like zero knowledge of managing Discord, and I had to learn all the things on the fly and try different mechanics and implement, see like what works, what not, in a collaboration, obviously, with the marketing team. So this part, like initial start, was crazy. And the funny thing, I was not even in New York. I was on like still on a vacation, because we launched Discord 1 month, I think 4 or 5 weeks before the sale. So I wasn't even back to New York by this time. I was sitting in Latvia in a like middle of nowhere with my laptop and just like trying to manage all these new people coming and to explain to everyone what the collection will be about. So this is probably like the highlight number 1 for me.
That was a big one for me too.
Yeah, it's
absolutely. The first time we jumped in, when we it was very casual for me, your introduction to join the Discord server, which I had no idea existed before the project, early in the project, and then began a kind of quick kind of joining and following of other communities. But I think the community developed so quickly around the project that I was caught off guard. I don't think I even joined our community in the first 500. I think I was actually that late, and then it was literally like catching a wave as it was growing. Yeah, and that was, but that was what was incredible. Not using any other kinds of social media in many ways to grow the community.
Well, it means we have something, right? Something interesting and unique. Otherwise, people will not show up. we didn't buy any followers, right? It was even prohibited by Twitter to make actual advertising. We had a budget for that, but they didn't allow us because it's a crypto project. So it's all about organic growth, like pun intended. But
and that's where the highlight was for me.
Yeah,
the highlight for me was that the project was discussed as ideas, and in the beginning, the community came in running at the idea, and even possibilities for what could happen and where it might go were introduced by people coming in from day one, and that was really thrilling in many ways and inspiring.
Okay. So number 2, probably the fact that it actually worked. There was a moment during development and after all this endless tests we had to do, at some point I realized, well, it's going to work. We are close because it's so complex. It has so many different parts, each of which has to work and communicate both sides. So I was surprised that we actually pulled it, and we had this core mechanics working, and public sale, which had a lot of work from the dev team to actually make it happen. So, and you don't have much room for errors, because if the public sale, if the contract doesn't work, if the system doesn't work, you're basically doomed. I've seen many collections just died because of that. So the tension was so high and the pressure on the dev team, and I'm super impressed that we had one well, I shouldn't say it for our collection, but I had feedback from many people saying that it was one of the smoothest launch they've seen so far in NFT space, and I'm really proud that we managed to do it, and how fast the sale was. Again, it was so rewarding after all these months of development, see how people react to it and actually decide to invest their resources, their money in the collection, believe in it. It was super rewarding to me. So it's probably number 2,
that's
start,
great.
middle, and I don't know. The third one, it's not maybe not that exciting for everyone, but this rotational feature we just delivered. You probably should, I don't know how it looks from outside. I've been so deep with it and spent so much time on making it work. So I understand how complex this thing, but simultaneously I tried to make it as simple looking for everyone. So I don't know, people who don't understand the internal pipeline which we had to develop to make it working. I don't know, do they actually understand how difficult the task was? And but I personally, as a VFX and creative guy with some technical knowledge, I really proud of what we achieved with this feature, and it's literally I'm sure that no one ever tried to do it before in NFTs. So it's we did something super new with generative part at the very beginning, with this ability to grow and follow the blockchain thing. But this is almost like a second part of the project, which was the same amount of efforts behind it. So generation and this 3D theme, and I can wait for us to develop the web interface for people to get access to these features, models we already generate, so they can be translated to AR feature down the road in a few weeks when the site will be ready. So, and that's actually a segue to the next thing we should do. Michael?
Good to see that you're able to overcome the technical difficulties. Thank you. I wanted to add, after our technical issue, that we're back, but to reiterate, I think you should be incredibly proud of that rotational feature. I think it's really something that we, early on was a grail for you. I know that you really had thought this was something, and it was one of the first things that early things that I think we both really keyed onto with each other as well. And conceptually I was really interested in bringing something that would continue to change and be almost living and have some measure of its own control, almost its own agency, and not be static. And your thought, really early on, to bring this feature of a rotating, movable, manipulatable,
Yeah, because underlying technology
image.
allows it. So we had this groundwork already done, and that allowed us to do a lot of things other collections cannot, like this rotation, like changing the NFT from the input from the owner after you already bought it. It's like no one can do that. The same thing with collab collections, right? Like with Meebits, CryptoPunks, Apes. So because we have this underlying technology, we can do this. It technically allows us. So it like expands what is possible for basically for NFT. And yeah, I'm super excited that it worked.
That's great. Well, I mean, one of the things that really, for me, that was incredibly exciting in our recap was, and related to what both of us are saying and to what's coming next, even, is just the fact that in explanation and understanding and looking at the website and viewing our project, that people from another community, from the art world community, that I had introduced the idea to, kind of got it and understood and were able to embrace, this project and the Crystal project and the growth of the community and its engagement, your engagement community with the crystals as something that was, in the sphere of an art project. And, we can call it an art project all we want, but in many ways, what's exciting is that this began to scratch and communicate with another community that has sometimes resistance to understanding and sometimes not. You never know who's going to be able to understand or accept things that are non-tangible or even digital. There's a lot of skepticism sometimes from the art world. And in many ways, people recognizing it, curators, other artists certainly, and creators, as something that, could be, contemporary art, or could be an art project, and not just relegated to categorization as something, other or less than, contemporary art was really exciting. And, the fact that we are kind of co-creating, that this is process-based, that right now, even as we're facing the last days, this is still a process, a really active process. It's like we're throwing paint on the walls, right?
One, right? It's just like
exactly.
The first part is ending. It's not like the project ends. We have so many exciting things to do next year.
Exactly.
Probably
only this part.
Yeah.
Well, I just mean that this part of the process, this active part of almost like throwing the paint around in the studio, of kind of manipulating and watching material settle and dry, is still really, really active. Every hand and every kind of grower, every community member that's working on this and participating, surprised and surprising us, is also actually laying down the strokes that are making up this entire project. And what's more exciting to me as well, connected to this kind of uptake and communication with the art world via our project, is the fact that we now have a project that is really on the cusp of being adopted by a major museum right now. As we mentioned before, we've been in discussions about the idea of the Reef being adopted by a museum, or being able to do shows there, which is part of our ongoing roadmap. But something that's been really exciting as well is the very notion that the museum right now, that it's reserved for, which I can reveal, is actually holding, and we're in discussion with, is the National Museum, the Hirshhorn in DC. And at the moment, it's exciting for me and us, I think, as a team, to realize that this project as an NFT is now under consideration and making great strides forward into being officially adopted into the permanent collection as perhaps the first generative art and NFT art project of this nature in any major museum collection. And that first is really exciting. I get, I think, and what's exciting is to me as well is it's literally something where the project is now with the lawyers currently, because to discuss even the nature of it is to retool the language of what a museum can accept, what can it collect. And a museum is designed to protect and foster and not sell an artwork that it's adopted into its collection. It's to protect it at all costs in many ways and reserve it for the public and other audiences to enjoy and learn from. And so in many ways, a project that has a kind of transactional nature, to accept it means to really acknowledge that this whole nature of an NFT and how it works is maybe a medium in itself, can be seen as a material.
Yeah, I think it's something that happened to museums, like, I don't know, in 50s or 60s, with all like television and video recording becoming a new media for them. And something like that happens to like with the digital right now. And we are in a like very front line of this change. And if it will work well, if they accept us, and like fingers crossed, obviously, we probably will be in pioneering collection, which the first one which got into the public museum space, like on that scale. It's I'm very honored, and I don't know, like if it works, hopefully it will.
Yeah, and hopefully it will. And I think as we continue, it's all very positive right now. So we hope to bring that, official news to you very soon. But as you say, yeah, I think it was astutely pointed out by the director of the museum that, it's really potentially like the moment of a photography moment in contemporary art, or a moment of video work, as you're saying, and performance work more recently, and expanding those kind of horizons about what's possible for art creators and for art audiences to understand as contemporary art and ways of communicating is really just incredibly exciting. So thanks to the community for that as well, because I think a lot of it has to do with what we've collectively been working on. Without it, it's just an idea. But in order to mobilize it, make it happen, make it real, it's happening right now and will continue, I hope, beyond, as Daniil is saying, beyond this lock period. I think that what we're here to also tell you is that, stay tuned, because I think we're in many ways at the end of one cycle and in the genesis of another kind of aspect of this entire project. And the reef itself is still being built. I have located a space that I have to still show Daniil, but I've begun to specifically modify a new studio space for us to build the reef. We have all kinds of exciting projects, including, aside from the regular updates, but possibly engagements and contests and maybe special events that we'll host, hopefully there, that we can invite community members to. And so we have many kinds of IRL, hopefully, experiences and intersections, aside from the weekly reports that we'll start bringing when the space is a little closer to reality. Along the way, I can also say I think I'm pretty excited about an upcoming rounds after, closely following the lock of the SLS printing tests. So we're going to be doing some test rounds of some of the crystals at different generations. And I think it would be exciting to be able to share some of the choices or selections for maybe some of those test crystals that might get printed with the community. And so maybe we'll be able to kind of get some previews based upon community input and see which crystals we might be able to try among the few that we'll begin to initiate tests with, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good idea.
Yeah, why not? I'm totally up to anything to bring some engagement. Like, and I do love this connection back and forth between digital and physical. So, like, anytime something like that happens, it makes me happy.
Yeah, me too. I think that the more we work towards making something physical and the way that it speaks back to the digital, and not that the physical is the end result necessarily or the goal, but that really continued engagement with our community and the growth and development of the reef as an ecosystem, and our project is as important as each single
I
crystal.
wish I could tell you like all the plans, but it's still.
You know,
I can say like
I'm sorry,
NDA.
I'm only I'm trying to bite my tongue,
NDA.
right?
Yeah, but I'm trying to be very like smart about what I can say and cannot, because it's like legal issues and all other stuff we still have to discuss, like with museum, with physical thing, with DAO, which is like an enormous part of our upcoming activities, like making this thing happen and work independently for benefit of all like stakeholders of our like community. It's amazing things, and it's all for 2022. Hopefully, it will be as exciting as 2021 for all of us, like for the dev team and for like whole team, including creators and marketing and producing, and for obviously for you guys, because we are not done yet. It's just like it's not even the middle. We just started, and yeah, I hope we will bring all this energy and all this momentum to the next year, and keep you entertained and interested in the project.
Yes, look forward to being continuing.
I should drink champagne right now. I feel like I already ended this thing. Like, cheers.
No, here's a toast. Absolutely. Perfect. Perfect. I'll look forward to communicating, both of us, with you guys, you know, all into the next year and at the next stages. And yeah, just a huge kind of message of gratitude and thanks for being here on this journey and on this project. And here's to continuing.
Okay, well, for anyone celebrating the new year, happy upcoming new year, and see you January 1st when the growth will be locked, but the evolution of the collection will continue.
Indeed.
See you guys.
Take care, guys.